Broadcasting from the Meredith Hall Studios out of Carson City, Nevada. You're listening to Covering the Field with Big Richard Martin, Gator Gates, and Joe the Answer Ellison.
Welcome to Covering the Field. I'm Joe Ellison, and with me today are my amazing colleagues, Big Richard Martin and Gator Gates. And let's start, of course, with the results from Super Wildcard Weekend. Big Rich, you want to start us off?
Yeah, it was a wild, wonderful weekend, don't you think? We were treated to some great games. Just about every game was competitive except for the last game when Tom Brady wasn't very competitive. But let's start with the Niners. I mean, they handled the Seahawks. They win their 11th straight. Brock Purdy is pretty. He's 4 TDs and a rookie season. I mean, a rookie quarterback. It's his 6th straight win. I give him the 7th straight win if you give him the Miami game.
Right.
So he's just rolling along. Christian McCaffrey was awesome. He had 119 yards on the ground, and he had 164 all-purpose yards.
Purdy just doesn't make any mistakes. He doesn't do anything spectacular, but he doesn't make the mistake.
Well, I think 4 touchdowns is spectacular.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. He does the 80-yard. He just goes out and does his job.
He does his checkdowns very well. Yes. He goes through his progression, and it's always easy to give it to McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, exactly. What a great pickup, huh?
That was a great pickup. And then, do you think it was bad, Joe? I mean that you have Trevor Lawrence. You gave up 2 first-round picks for 3 first-round picks, and now you bring Trey Lance, yeah. And then he comes out. I mean, do you stick with Purdy?
What can you get for Trey Lance? Maybe you can get one of your first-round picks back, but you traded 3 of them. So I think Trey Lance is going to be the guy.
But is it worth it if you got Purdy? I mean, Purdy seems to fit the coach's scheme. Is how he's doing it out there. I think he's very, very good in that West Coast offense that Shanahan's running, and
I think he's Purdy would be the backup. Trey Lance has shown he's already injury prone. You're going to need a backup anyway, and Garoppolo goes on his way somewhere. I think they keep the 2 youngsters.
So what do you think, Big Richard? You keep Garoppolo and get rid of Trey?
I think you have to go with Brock Purdy. I think if he's playing the way he is, I think we stick with what you have. I mean, I don't care if you picked him up as the first pick or the last pick. He's playing the best football right now.
Would you get rid of G? Jimmy G?
You have to get rid of one of those guys. You can get some. You got some. You have some trade value in both those quarterbacks.
Right. So which one would you get rid of?
Well, I'm getting rid of Garoppolo, but that's me. But
you still are.
See, I don't know. I mean, it's a toss-up, you guys.
You got to build
really
the young guys, man.
I think that Shanahan knows what he's doing, and I think that he's proven it with that 11 straight wins. He's got the right formula. He's got the right quarterback. We'll see what happens this week. But they did beat the Seahawks 3 times this year, which is hard to do, to beat a team 3 times.
San Francisco did win 41-23. Seattle was leading 17-16 at halftime. The first half was actually pretty good.
Yeah, 17 second quarter points.
Yeah,
by Geno
but the second half was a mismatch. But I think the NFL did good by putting that game first. Kind of got it out of the way because it appeared everyone knew who was going to win that game before it happened. So and then when scheduling.
And I think Metcalf had a great game. Lockett had a great game, and Geno Smith played great. So I mean, they have some questions in Seattle. I mean, they have 2 first-round picks. They had the 5th pick coming from the Broncos. They're in a great position to move up to get a quarterback with those 2 picks.
No, they look good. They look good for next year. I agree.
They roll well.
All right.
Okay.
And then Saturday night we moved on, and it was Jacksonville at home against the Los Angeles Chargers. You didn't happen to catch that game, did you?
Probably one of the best playoff games in history. It has to be in the top 5, down 27-0. Trevor Lawrence has 4 interceptions in the first half, but Trevor is the ice man. He has ice running through his veins. Didn't phase him at all. He came out there, got his team back in there, had confidence, and then he goes and throws not 3 but 4 touchdowns and gets the win in the end. Cameron, the Dicker kicker, he missed a 40-yard field goal. Could have put him up. They might have needed a touchdown. I think Lawrence could have got a touchdown if he needed to anyway. So you can't put it all on. I mean, he was 87%. Dicker was the kicker out of Texas. He rookie kicker. I mean, you are going to shank one or two every now and then. And I mean, he had a really good season. I thought. I think that he wasn't the reason they lost. That was for sure.
Okay.
Correct.
Well, the reason I think they lost was because the coach.
Yeah.
How does Stokely get away with this?
Well, I was going to say, what if Mike Williams was playing instead of having a broken bone in his back and playing Mike Williams the week before?
Yeah, playing into the fourth quarter. I mean, it's just. I mean, Brandon Stokely should not. He should. And then what do? They fire the offensive coordinator. Lombardi. Lombardi gets fired, and I thought the offense played great. I mean, they played well enough to win. I mean, they were playing conservative.
Yeah. So I think the coach.
Lombardi falls on the sword. That's what we just put out. Took one for the team, I guess. And hey, pack your crap and get out, man. I mean, and the coach made a horrible coach. I would say reckless. Putting those guys in and also costing me my ticket because I had Denver the second half, and I thought for sure that they weren't going to play him. So
there you go. So yes, the amazing comeback. Then Sunday we had Buffalo, 34-31 over Miami.
Well, it looked like everybody, 97% of the people went with Buffalo on the money line, and with
they
the third string, and they got there, but barely. I'm telling you, Buffalo holds off a comeback by Skywalker Thompson. I thought he did an awesome job, considering, being a rookie in that situation and that pass rush. The offensive line definitely needs to be improved for Miami, and it was just a great. It was just a great game. I mean, they get down to the end. I mean, just the only thing that they really had a hard time, I thought Thompson was that he burned all 3 timeouts because he couldn't get the plays in on time.
Right.
And so they were running out of time. So at the end, when they didn't have any timeouts and it was 4th and 1, McDaniels just doesn't get. How does he not get that play in? I mean, you have to. That is unexcusable. 4th and 1, you cannot take a delay game. Call the play, run the play, win or lose. But now you go 4th and 6, and then you put the pressure on Thompson. Not fair to that kid. That's on the coach, and he needs to take full ownership for that loss.
That game is why I think that Buffalo is not going to win the Super Bowl. We cannot be playing Miami, third-string quarterback at home, and win by, 3?
Well, Josh Allen had two interceptions, and he had a strip sack for a touchdown. And then they also gave up a punt return for a touchdown. So that is not playoff football.
I can see Jacksonville going to Buffalo and beating them. I can see it. I don't think Buffalo has that great of a team.
There'll be a game before that. We'll have
I know, but I'm just saying I can see that.
So you're taking Jacksonville to the ship.
No, my point of the story is that Buffalo doesn't have a team that can win the Super Bowl in my eyes. I don't think Kansas City has a team that can win, and I don't think the closest one would be Cincinnati. Cincinnati has a team that can do it, but I still think the NFC is a little bit tougher with Philly and San Francisco.
Most people think the opposite, that the AFC is tougher.
They can think that all they want.
Well, because you have the number one offense.
That's
Buffalo
what makes the public
is the number 2 offense. Kansas City's the number 1 offense. Buffalo's the number 2
That's
offense.
what makes the public, and that's why the books are in the.
And that's why how many years did Machine Gun Kelly, Jim Kelly, get to the Super Bowl but couldn't get it done because of 4 losses?
Yes, exactly.
And they coming in with the best offense in the league. But you're right, Gator. I think defense does win it. But one thing I do want to put out to you guys, how long has it been for Miami? Has it been over 20 years since Miami's won a playoff game?
2000, and so you're saying 2002. Since 2002?
I'm going to say it's been a little more than that. And let's see, Jimmy Johnson was the coach, so I'd say about 2000. So
yep, 23 years.
Way back.
23 years, 2000. We'd have to go back to the year 2000 for them to win a playoff game, and they had it. And the coach couldn't make the call. He couldn't gut it up there and make the call. I mean, I think he probably had like 2 or 3 plays he was trying to run in his mind what he thought would work. And you can't do that. I mean, you got to run the. I mean, you run the ball. Mm-hmm. Run the ball. And get the first yard. Get that yard.
Okay. Also Sunday, New York Giants went to Minnesota and won 31-24.
I think everybody was in agreement here on the show.
Yes.
That the Giants were going to play them tough and could come out with that win. And Kirk Cousins didn't play a bad game. I mean, he was 31 for 39 with 273 yards, 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. And T.J. Hawkinson went off with 10 catches that game. I mean, the tight end was open all day, and you just couldn't get it done. And I think Daniel Jones just played a great game. He looked great. I mean, every one of us here at the beginning of the season, we're saying Daniel Jones is going to give him a clipboard, take his helmet, give him a clipboard. I think that's what everybody on the show said, that we were all doubting Daniel Jones. And what does he do? I mean, he comes out there and run 301 yards passing against Minnesota on the road in a playoff game, 2 touchdowns, and he rushed for 78 yards. So he led the team in rushing and in passing.
Yeah, he looked great. Cousins, they didn't really throw the ball down the field. It was a lot of shorter kind of passes, kind of check down kind of thing.
Guys, they had
a lot of completions.
No turnovers in that game. Zilch, none on both sides.
It was a well-played game.
Well-played game, I agree.
Yeah, maybe Kirk Cousins catches the heat, but I mean, the problem is when you're giving up 301 yards and you're running, and your quarterback, who's not known to be a great runner, gets 78 yards.
Yes.
He looked very confident, and he looked like he was in control that whole game. I think he probably had the best weekend of any quarterback that played in Wild Card Weekend.
Right. Okay, Cincinnati, 24-17 at home against Baltimore. Another thriller of a game.
It was a thriller. It was a great game. It's like we said, they split those. We should have been more on this game, I think. I think the spread was a little bit too high. I gave the 7.5 lost by the hook.
It opened at like around 5.
Well, they thought
like
Lamar Jackson.
8.5. I mean, there's certain different numbers you could have caught.
Right. But you got it early because Lamar Jackson, when they ruled him out, it went from 5.5 to right to 7.5 to 8. So if you got it early, you could have got that. But because this is a divisional game, you look at how they played throughout the year. They split throughout the year. The 2 games they split, and they were very close games. Why would we think it'd be any different? I think we drank the orange Kool-Aid out there in Cincinnati, and Burrow didn't look comfortable at all.
Baltimore controlled that whole game.
Right, until Sam Hubbard controlled that fumble and ran it all the way back 99 yards.
That was a key play.
That was the play.
But I'm just saying, Baltimore controlled that whole game without Lamar, and I feel bad for Lamar.
He won't get a contract.
Yeah.
Well, here's Lamar.
I think if Lamar was in that game, Cincinnati wouldn't have won that game.
Lamar wasn't in the game. He wasn't even at the game.
Yeah, even Tua wasn't at the game either, was he?
I don't think so.
I didn't see him on the sideline. What is up with these? Is that a sign that they're moved on? Both of these quarterbacks moved on. I know McDaniels likes
they're not
Tua.
like team players.
I mean, you can get out there and help.
Their own thing.
You can help the young quarterbacks out. You can still read those coverages, kind of show where your checkdowns are, and kind of look at the coverage that they're giving you.
Well, it did come down to that one play, and Tyler Huntley was told to go low, that they were going to push him on that 1-yard quarterback sneak into the end zone. He took matters into his own hands, dove with the ball up in the air, and got it knocked backwards and taken 99 yards back for a touchdown. So that one's on Tyler Huntley for sure.
Okay, when they say go low, we're supposed to go high. I thought that's what a former first lady said. I mean, I don't think that applies to the football game. I think you should get there, let the big lineman get behind you and push.
Absolutely. And the final game, Dallas, that was Monday night. Dallas going into Tampa Bay, winning 31-14. Not really much to say about that game. It seemed like pretty one-sided.
It was one-sided the whole game, Joe. I mean, even I've heard people even taking the Buccaneers second half with the points. I've heard people did that, Joe. I mean, I don't know if you know anybody that did that.
I tried it myself.
Oh, you did try it, Joe. Okay.
It's my zero theory. Anytime a team has 0 points at halftime, I always take them. And they did outscore them 14-13, but not enough to cover the 3-point
spread. And then I thought you had a chance when you got that onside kick, and you thought you got Tom Brady. He's going to throw one more touchdown, you would think.
A touchdown, even a field goal. They needed 2 touchdowns and a field goal. They might have taken one, but didn't happen.
I think the whole story is Dak is back after a bad game against Washington. He responds with 4 touchdowns, throwing and 1 on the ground. He looked great. I think it's just going to we're going to have great matchups this next divisional round.
All right. So let's review some stats we gave out last week about Wild Card Weekend. We said home and road teams are very even record-wise lately in this wild card round, and home teams went 4-2 straight up. That makes them 21-17 the last 8 years. We shared that underdogs were a good bet wild card round, and they went 4-2 against the spread. They are now 16-8 against the spread in the last 24 games. What didn't happen was the under, which we said since 2010 was happening at a rate of 65%. But only 1 game went under. and it shouldn't have. So,
Yeah, it was the Dallas game.
Yeah, the one that shouldn't have.
Yeah, the one where the guy missed 4.
oh, wait,
Phil,
that could be a preview of a You Got Hosed story.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
That has to be mental. I mean, can you sign a new kicker at this stage? And I mean,
No.
I mean, you could, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I know, but Dax and
But
I had
you're
a
not
bad
going
game
to.
last week. The kicker had a bad game, but when you miss 4 in a row, that's in your head. I mean, that's mental. And we got Dr. Phil get off the Dallas.
Just like every other kicker, man. When they're mental like that, it takes a while for them to get back to non-mental.
Well, he had a great season.
Yeah.
And sure didn't
Might
respond
have
well.
been something,
Tough job.
might have been something to eat
job.
for breakfast or lunch or
Yeah.
something. I don't know. That was weird. The proposition sheet was interesting. The total points, you add them all up, that went over. The missed extra points, that went over. The combined 2-point conversions went over. There was no safety, but the best prop to hit was that longest touchdown scored, which was a 99 yards. The 90 to 99 yards was 35-1.
Yeah, thanks to Sam Hubbard. I didn't know if he had enough gas to get through there, but
That was great.
if that was 105 yards, I don't know if he would have made it because he was
Just fast
definitely
enough to
just
be faster than Mark Andrews.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's all that took.
Yes.
So
So the way to go out there and do is wind sprints. Big Sam, you didn't cheat on wind sprints. Man. Good job, man.
Exactly.
So before we get to this week's games, what's the latest player and coaching news around the NFL? Well, I would say Brandon Staley. He's staying in LA. He's not getting fired. When you look at the record, they have improved the last 2 years. What was it, 9-8, 10-7?
How do you fight your offensive coordinator? I mean, they were 27-0. I mean, it wasn't like Herbert. I think Herbert was succeeding. I think he's moving up. I mean, obviously, in the first half, we said Herbert or Lawrence, who's going to make the next step. And the first half looked like Herbert for sure. It looked like Herbert. I don't think he played a bad second half. Didn't throw a pick. Didn't have Mike. He had Mike Williams. Then Lombardi still has a job, probably, and they're moving on to the divisional round.
I think they are. Williams was a big loss.
Yeah, and all the defensive coaches are going.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Sean McVay is staying in LA, as we suggested. Don't take a lot of time thinking about this, and he didn't.
Good. Well, I mean, you have to move on. It's kind of.
Yeah.
They moved on. Remember with Stafford really early. Remember they did that. I think it was during the playoffs. They made that trade and to get Stafford when they made that trade with Detroit. So I mean, the NFL season starts right now. You're already starting for next year, 2023 season. It's starting now, and so it's good that he made a quick decision. Aaron Donald scared the whole LA area when he said it was great being a Ram on his Twitter page, and then he was quickly responded back that I am still a Ram, and so we thought maybe he might be done. He has hinted that he might hang up the cleats, but I'm glad to see him back in there. He's one of the still a top 5 defensive player.
Okay, well, we're going to take a look now at the divisional playoff round. Home teams are 29-11 straight up the last 10 years, but last year the road teams went 3-1. All the games were decided in the last 3 minutes. Three of the 4 games were decided in the last 4 seconds or overtime. We can only hope again for that same kind of excitement, but we'll see how it goes. Big Rich, it's now time to predict the 4 games. You went 4-2 last week.
Yes.
Because of that number on the Cincinnati at the time of the show.
Right.
First game Saturday, Kansas City -8.5 at home against Jacksonville with the total at 53. What do you got?
Well, I mean, if you look at both teams' defense, they're very similar. Kansas City is giving up 21.7 points per game, and the Jaguars give up 20.6 yards per game. So very evenly, they both give up over 240 yards passing per game. So it shows that the over is probably the best bet in this one, the 53. I think Patrick Mahomes had a week off. They're playing in Kansas City. I'm going to take Kansas City. I'm going to drop 8.5. I know Trevor Lawrence has been on a ride, and he's definitely one of the hottest quarterbacks with their 6-game winning streak. But I think Kansas City at home and that home field advantage is definitely a big advantage of Kansas City, the second loudest stadium in the NFL. Tough place to play. I think Kansas City gets it done. They will give up some points to Trevor Lawrence, but I think that they'll cover the 8.5. I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City, -8.5.
Okay. Gator, let's see. How did you do? 6-0 against the spread last week. 5-1 straight up. Absolutely amazing.
Well, thank you, Joe.
Well done. And what do you like in this game?
Okay, well, I think Kansas City is going to win.
Are they going to win by 8.5?
No, I'm going to take Jacksonville. And I would take Jacksonville with the points.
I'll put this out there that Kansas City is the number one scoring offense at 29.2 points per game, and Jacksonville is 23.8. That's where they're getting the 8.5 points. I think it's where the odds maker are getting that 8.5 points. And then you put in 3 points for being at home. So
okay,
it's a good pick. You gotta. I don't know if I'm going to bet it too heavy because I do like Trevor Lawrence and.
Well, in my heart, I'm going to be rooting for Jacksonville.
Right, exactly.
In my heart, but for betting purposes, I can't put money against Holmes.
what are you taking? The total or the side now?
No, well, the total. No, I don't know about totals. If Jacksonville's going to win, it is not going to be 53. So if Kansas City's going to win, then it'll probably be right at that number, 53. But I like Kansas City to win, money line, and I like Jacksonville
to cover the spread. Okay.
It's too high. It's more than a touchdown.
All right. I'm still trying to figure out what I did exactly last week. 2-1, 2-2, 2-1-1. I'm not even sure. But anyway, I changed my picks as I was going along on my sheet. But Saturday, I do like Jacksonville and Kansas City to go over the 53. The Chiefs are 10-3 over in their last 13 in January. They do play a lot of playoff games, obviously, the last few years. So these are all recent stats. So I do see a high-scoring game. Where your note there, Gator, taking Jacksonville, Kansas City is 1-7-1 against the spread at home this year. They have not been covering at home. So that leads me.
But that's where I lean towards the NFC to win.
Okay. So I guess we're all in on that game. Next up is Philadelphia minus 7.5 at home against the New York Giants. And the total is at 48. Big Rich, what do you think?
Well, this is be their third meeting since they're divisional teams and meeting in the divisional round now. And we say it's tough to beat a team 3 times in the season. And I think that the Giants are improving. And I don't think Jalen Hurts' shoulder is 100%. And so I think that they will tend not to run so much, but they do have a great passing with, A.J. Brown and I think Wayne's from the
Devontae Smith.
Devontae Smith, yes, from Alabama, the Heisman Trophy winner. I think both those guys are going to get they're going to get the ball. They're going to score, but it's tough to go against the Giants. I'm going to stick with the Giants in 7.5 points.
Okay, Gator.
I like the Giants to win straight up.
Nice. That's it.
That's it.
It's
straight
total. Straight up.
Don't need any points. Keep your points, Vegas.
All right.
Love it.
Okay.
You're going to get a good money line price on it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to throw out a couple little stats here at you guys. I'm also taking New York plus the 7.5 at Philly. Giants are 14-4 against the spread this season. That's the best team there has been all year.
Right.
6-1 on the road against the spread. Well, here they are on the road. Eagles 3-7 against the spread in their last 10. And I think that injury to Hurts has something to do with that.
Absolutely.
For sure.
He didn't play 5 games.
There you go. In matchups with teams, we're talking about this from the same division, road teams are 14-4 against the spread.
Wow.
So
that's kind
when
of
they
amazing.
when they meet in the playoffs. Week 18, these two teams met. The Giants rested basically all their starters that were worthwhile on offense, and they only lost 22-16. And the Eagles were trying to win that game to secure number 1 seed.
Right.
So why is this spread so high at 7.5? It doesn't seem to make any sense to me.
Good question.
So
I think it was probably
Giants
that game
also.
that they played and they won by 20. I think that might have something to do with it when they did play. I think it was week 10. So I think that game, they pretty much handled them. I think they scored over 40 points against them. So makes you think that if Jalen Hurts is healthy, they can put up some points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's where I'm going with the Giants. I don't think he is, and even if he is at 80%, it's not good enough.
Not good enough. I totally agree. Giants are on a roll, and sneaky good team. Possible trip to the Super Bowl for the Giants. You can get some decent odds on them right now.
Yeah, they're probably 20-1, I imagine. I know that it's 28-1 for Jacksonville or something like that.
It's probably right around that same number. Okay, Sunday. Buffalo is favored by 5 at home versus Cincinnati with the total at 48.
Well, I think if you look at Cincinnati, they're rated, their offense is number 16. They average 26 points per game compared to the Bills. They are second. They average 28 points per game. So the defenses are very similar. Buffalo's a little bit better at 17, and Cincinnati's at 20 points per game. So if you look at that, that's probably where you're getting the 3.5 points. You're thinking that it's going to be an offensive show. Usually you play a bad game, you play a good game, right? So they both kind of played bad games. So, I mean, last week, I don't think Buffalo, Josh Allen had a great game, obviously, and I don't think Burrow had a really good game. But, you know, I'm going to take Cincinnati the 5, and I'm going to call Cincinnati's going to win that one outright.
That's what I'm going to go with, but go ahead, Gator.
I'm going to go with Buffalo money line and points.
You're going to lay the 5?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What's a 5.5?
But for the same reason,
it's
for the same reasons that Richard was saying. And I know Richard said Cincinnati, but for the same reasons that Richard's saying, both of them didn't play very good. Cincinnati didn't look like the Cincinnati last year that went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but when they played that last game that was canceled, Cincinnati went right down the field and scored on them, and they were going down the field again.
But this is going to be in Buffalo.
It is Buffalo.
So that's where I'm going with that. But
no better place, no better place
saying,
to be in Buffalo, I guess is what Marbley used to say. No better.
Yeah,
where else would you want to be in Buffalo in minus 20-degree weather?
6 feet of snow. That sounds like fun to me. I'm dealing with enough snow right here. I can't imagine what 6 feet is like.
Exactly, Joe.
But I'm trying Cincinnati plus the 5 at Buffalo. The Bengals are 13-4 spread-wise this year, the second best behind the Giants. Incidentally, Buffalo and Cincinnati have gone over 7 out of the last 10 meetings, so I'm leaning that way, but I think Cincy is a stronger play, and that's the one I'm going to give out on the show.
Well, Joe,
I do have concerns about Cincy's offensive line, though. We've had some injuries.
He had an injury. Got the offensive lineman. What did he dislocated his knee?
Jonah Williams.
Jonah Williams is out. Yeah, their tackle.
Well, he might play. They popped it back in, I guess. They said he was questionable.
Rub some dirt on it. Rub some dirt on it. Get in there. But you know, to me, I don't think what's really maybe could be you got hosed to Cincinnati because if Buffalo plays Kansas City, it's at a neutral site. But why isn't this game at a neutral site? Because Cincinnati, if they would have won, they would have had the game. If they would have won that game, they would have been home.
Good point. Good point, Richard.
Yes. Cincinnati, Buffalo is the inspired team because of Damar Hamlin, because he survived near-death experience. But Cincinnati is the most angry team. They feel like they've
more to prove.
Been getting hosed.
Well, they have got
by the league.
But how can you do? Why would you do a coin flip where they don't get the same opportunity in their game?
Right.
So it's definitely favoritism towards Buffalo.
Yeah.
Other than Cincinnati.
Cincinnati's got this us against the world mentality right now. Like, hey, we're being treated badly.
That's correct.
And I think that's very inspirational. So I'm really liking Cincinnati.
I do too. Yeah.
Okay. And finally, San Francisco is -4 at home against Dallas. The total is 46.5. Big Rich.
Well, first, this game doesn't remind me of the 80s, the 90s Dallas Cowboys, San Francisco 49ers.
Of course.
So I'm going to go out with you guys. I'm going to give you sink or swim. Okay. It's been 38 years since the catch from Dwight Clark, Joe Montana to.
Well, let's see.
That'd
be I can remember it because one of the worst experiences of my entire life. 1982. What year are we in? So that's 40 years ago.
Oh, you nailed it right there. You know the year. It was January 10th, 1982, when the catch happened. So it's been just over 41 years. So anyway, and it shows us our age if we remember that play 41 years ago.
It was horrible.
Yeah,
it's like watching a train wreck right there.
Right.
Okay.
So they're very similar. I think the teams are very similar. You got Michael Parsons, Defensive Player of the Year, maybe, or is it Nick Bosa? Nick Bosa. I think you got both.
It's a two-man race.
So we know where they're going to get some pressure on the quarterback. Both teams can rush 4 and get pressure on the quarterback. Are you agreeing with there, Joe?
Well, I mean, they can get some pressure on the quarterback, but they do also have weaknesses in defensive backfield.
Sure. Ward was getting beat like a drum
Yes.
against Metcalf against Seattle. So if you were watching, that was number 7, cornerback. They were trying to hide him everywhere they were going. He was getting beat until they got the interception and game got out of hand. So what I'm thinking is both quarterbacks are going to be able to they're going to get pressured. I have to go with Dak Prescott. I mean, over a rookie quarterback at this point, even though he's playing well, I think the pressure, I mean, he's really not been pressured. He's never been, it doesn't look like he ever panics, but I mean, Brock Purdy. So I'm going to have to lean towards Dak Prescott on this one. I think that they'll get it done. Maybe after 41 years, you can get your catch, Joe. Maybe they can get Schultz on the catch, and maybe you could win this game outright.
That'd be simply amazing. Gator?
Oh, Joe, this scares me. You're going to kick me off the show, aren't you, Joe?
No. You've
You've been on the Niners.
Niners.
You've been on the Niners. 11 games, 11 Lords leaping.
Okay, so, but I'm not totally on the Niners. Okay, it's going to come down to a field goal, guys.
So you like Niners money line?
I like Niners money line. I like Dallas points, and then I guess that's a hedge bet because if Dallas wins, at least I get Dallas points.
Yes, you do.
But I do like San Francisco to go all the way.
Yep, you're sticking with that.
And I'm sticking with that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to go. I don't dare bet on Frisco, of course, but I stayed away from Dallas last week, and they won easily. So I'm just going to bet the total. I'm going to go over 46.5 points. The Niners have scored 30 or more points in 8 out of their last 11 games. Niners, like we were talking, strong up the middle, but they can give up big pass plays and outside runs.
I like that.
Lamb had a great game. Schultz had a great game. Dak Prescott didn't seem like he had any problem being on the road last week in Tampa Bay. I think he tries it on the other coast.
Yep, I think it's going to be probably the game of the weekend, and I think the NFL did well by putting that as the last one.
Yeah, they did.
Well done. And thank you again to Butch the Rain Man Roberts for those stats that I used earlier. And we're sticking with our Super Bowl picks. Obviously, all our teams won last week, so we're all good there. Nobody's going to change their mind now. So, Gator.
Yeah.
Is there any news from the National Hockey League?
Okay, well, Joe, when it comes to the LA Kings, and I'm always talking about, how quick the Kings are only going to go with quick.
Jonathan Quick.
Correct. So, Joe, in the last 6 games, he's 0-6. Now,
it's not as quick as he's famous.
But you guys,
slow.
The Kings are up there with Seattle and up there with Vegas. Those 3 teams are like 2 points in between each other for the first in the Pacific. So why is that? Well, we have a goalie named Phoenix Copley that is 10-1 in his last 11. And his only loss, Joe, is to your Boston 5-2.
Boston's on fire.
Oh, they are kicking butt. You're right. So this guy, Copley, he's from the North Pole, Alaska. And his save percentage is .933. And he lets in about 2 goals, 2.00 goals a game. So just watch him. Yeah.
There is a place.
There's hockey in North Pole.
Yeah, the ball.
What's he playing against the Elks? Bunch of Elks out there. Exactly.
Well, he looks. He looks really good, obviously. But you might need to pay attention to who the starting goalies are going to be before the game start. And there is a site you can look up starting goalies.
Now, your starting goalies only play about 80% if they're lucky. Sometimes it's less than that. If you get a team like Boston or even Vegas that switch goalies, you're looking at about 60-40.
Okay.
So, yes, you got to pay attention to that, correct.
Back-to-back nights, they will often use both goaltenders, one apiece.
Now, that's what makes my job hard, Joe, because I'm trying to pick games that are Monday and Tuesday, and I have no clue who the goalies are going to be.
You don't know who the goalie is. That's right.
But that's okay. I still do okay.
Okay. Well, who's hot? Who's not in the NHL right now?
Boston. They're 6-1, Joe.
Go Boston. It's going to a theme all year, hopefully.
Well, New Jersey's right on their butt, Joe. They're 5-0 right now.
They had a small little cold streak.
Correct. Now,
back on track now.
Philadelphia, the Flyers, they're the ones that are tripping me out, and Seattle are both 8-2 in their last 10.
Okay.
And Tampa Bay is 7-2.
All right.
Okay, so who's not, Joe?
Yeah, who's cold?
Okay, well, before last night, Arizona was 0-9. but they did win last night against Detroit, so they are 1-9 in the last 10.
All right.
Anaheim, they're 1-5. Now I have Columbus and the Islanders. Islanders tripped me out on this one because they should be they're 1-5, both of them. But there's no way the Islanders should be 4-5, Joe.
Okay.
No way.
They're better than that.
They're way better than that. And Ottawa, same thing. Ottawa's 1-4, but they're kind of like the Minnesota in my eyes, where they're always mediocre.
Okay. So those are the teams to watch at this point.
Now, in my eyes, and they're not on my hot list because I'm always going off of their last week, what they did. But the hottest team in my eyes right now, Joe, is Winnipeg Jets. You watch them. They're number one in the Central right now.
They passed Dallas, huh?
Passed Dallas.
Uh-oh.
Or well, tied.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
They're tied.
Dallas-
They're
Dallas-
I think they're exactly
Dallas
tied.
beat Las Vegas.
Yes.
Oh,
So yes.
good win.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
In Vegas.
So Colorado better start going there. I'm not exactly sure Colorado's going to win that division, Joe. Not the way that they're playing.
I don't think you predicted them to win the division before the season started.
Yeah, I
so
predicted them to win the division. I just didn't think
Oh.
they were going to go to the. They're just not going to do it.
it's just not going to do much in the playoffs. All right.
Yeah, that's what I predicted. But
Well, Gator, your picks went. Well, that's who's hot and cold.
yes, sir.
Yes, and your picks went 8-2 last week, putting you at 100 wins and 44 losses for the season. That's 69.4%. If we can get like 0.1 more, I'm going to round that off to 70%. But
Yeah.
you're still at 69%.
That's
the
through
moment.
15 weeks, Joe.
I know.
That's 15 weeks.
Okay. What are your predictions for next week?
Okay, Joe. Here we go. All right. Thursday, I have 2 games. I have Columbus over Anaheim, and I have Philly, who's hot, like I said, over Chicago. And Chicago beat me last week over the Avalanche. That was one of my losses.
All right.
Saturday, I have 6 games, guys. 6 of them.
Okay, I'm
Ready?
I'm writing them down.
Okay, well, Anaheim has to go to Buffalo. I'm going to take Buffalo.
All right.
Columbus over San Jose.
For San Jose.
Toronto is going to be at Montreal. Montreal is playing a tiny bit better, but Toronto's the best team.
Okay.
Dallas over Arizona.
I'd like to hear that.
St. Louis over Chicago.
All right.
And Edmonton over Vancouver.
Okay.
6 of them? Okay.
That's 6.
Sunday, I have Boston over San Jose.
Oh,
You would think?
I would think
Okay.
Boston would beat San Jose. I would only hope.
And then I don't have nothing for Monday, Joe, but Tuesday, San Jose has to go to Detroit. So after getting killed by Boston, they're going to get killed by Detroit.
Okay. Well, San Jose is very consistent
Yeah.
on your list.
San Jose is the doormat of the hockey league, obviously.
Oh,
according to Gator.
But if you ask their organization, they're not rebuilding, Joe.
They're not.
That's what they're telling me.
Well, they're not.
They're not winning.
Yeah, they're not focusing in on what's happening right now.
Okay.
All right. So, Big Rich, are there any stories from the National Basketball Association this week?
Well, we're going to start off with, you guys have been dogging on the San Jose. I'm going to give you the Sacramento Kings.
First place.
First place, won 4 in a row. That's 3 weeks in a row. The Kings have held the crown in the Pacific. It's amazing. Memphis, there's nobody higher than Memphis. They've won 10 in a row, and they just demolished without Booker last night against the Suns. So 2 nights ago, the Nuggets are hot. They're 9-1, so they're starting to get the Northwest. They pretty much got that in control there with Djokovic. In the East, Boston. They've won 7 in a row. They're 8-2 in their last 10. 76ers are right behind them, keeping pace. They've won 3 in a row, and they're 7-3. The Bucks got Giannis back, and they've won their last 2, and they're 6-4 in their last 10.
Okay.
So who's not is the Rockets. The Rockets keep they're not lifting off very well, and they're looking to my next segment. They're probably looking at Brandon Miller out there in Alabama. Great freshman kid, but we'll get to that.
Okay. What is our next? Oh, our next segment. Yes, that's it for the NBA.
That's it for the
What's
NBA.
going on in college basketball?
Well, Houston is pretty much their double-digit wins every week. They did stumble a little bit against Southern Florida. They didn't cover. They were only won by 6. but they beat a good Tulane team last night by 20. Alabama is smoking red hot. The Crimson Tide. They did have one of their players who was on the injured reserve, Darren Miles, was arrested for capital murder charges. So that definitely affected their team. They did come out last night and cover the spread. I appreciate that against Vanderbilt. And Kansas was the number 2 team. They will fall down to probably about 4 or 5. They haven't came out with this week's AP ratings, but Kansas lost to Kansas State in Manhattan, Kansas at the Octagon. And I'd love to have they had the Joe Biden tape out, trying to keep people like our borders, trying to keep all those fans from running onto the court, which didn't work very well. So it was a full court, and I know they don't like to see that rush in the court, but I think it's good for college basketball. I like to see it. I can see injuries, and sometimes there's punches thrown, which is not good. But Purdue will move up to number 2. They beat a good Michigan State team at Michigan State by a point. Eden had 30 points in that game, and so he had half the points for the Boilermakers. And I was going to tell you about Brandon Miller. He dropped 30 last night against Vanderbilt. He is a true freshman, and he shoots 46% from the three-point line and 45 on the field. So he shoots better from three-point than he does on the field. Great-looking freshman, and he'll be going to the NBA next year for sure.
Yeah, well, that Kansas State-Kansas, incredible rivalry, obviously. Yeah. Kansas State, usually on the wrong end of that. Right. Kansas, all that history. I think
had to go to overtime, though. I mean, they played them well, and Kansas didn't play a bad game. They're the defending champs, but they always have. That's a rivalry game, those two.
Massive rivalry.
So
celebration was warranted there.
Yeah, it was warranted with the yellow tape, trying to keep the kids out. Did not work very well.
No.
They need better security system.
Okay.
So right. that's it from the basketball.
All right, Gator. Tennis's first major Australian Open began Sunday our time. It's only been about 4 days or so that they've been playing, but
right.
What's transpired so far? There has been some news.
Yeah, well, the first day, Joe, we had 14 upsets. The biggest one was Alex Molkin at a plus 360. He beat Stan
Wawrinka. Yes, the veteran. He's got to be like 35 years old. Yeah. Oh, Wawrinka. He's been around a long time.
From Switzerland. We also had a ranked number 21, Borna Soric, lost. And we had number 17, Lorenzo Musetti from Italy. He lost to Lloyd Harris. And in the women's, the biggest one was Anna Bondor, plus 205. She played Anna Bogdan and won in 3 sets.
So we have had some upsets, but nothing massive along those lines, I would say.
Not that first day, but Tuesday, Petra Kvitova.
Petra Kvitova, yeah, that was a big loss. Yeah. I was watching that.
And as far as the other losses, Joe, we lost Kyrgios and Nadal, both to injuries.
That's unbelievable. Rafael Nadal lost yesterday.
But he had to leave, Joe. And I think it was his hip, Joe.
Yeah, well, he had like 3 different injuries in the last 6 months. But we'll give him credit for going out on the court and giving it a go.
Yeah.
And he finished the match. He didn't quit.
Oh.
And he gave the fans...
okay, I wasn't sure about that. So.
Yeah, well, he saw the trainer a couple times. But
right.
Good for him to gut it out. He was the defending champion. And he gave the fans, an effort. But
now leaves a wide open. Isn't that great that he did that? Because you think that
people that pay
the people money. Just that to get the win. It's than just being a forfeit. Gut it out and just let
that guy win.
Let him have his victory in his time. That.
Yeah. I'm with you, Big Richard, no doubt.
Now, Kyrgios was done before the tournament.
Yeah.
So that's a disappointment for the Australian fans.
But I think with all this happening now, because a little Tiafoe.
Yeah, Francis Tiafoe.
He was supposed to play Nadal. Let's say Nadal was healthy, he would have been playing Nadal. So it sure favors him. Now kind of jumping a little bit. He has to win this next round to play. Okay. But I'm jumping a little bit. But I think it favors him because now he has a better shot of getting through.
Well,
than he would have.
That's great for the United States.
Correct.
One of our better players. Novak Djokovic, the 9-time champion, He's also playing hurt right now, but he's gotten it through, and he's that good. He might be able to win the tournament again.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Did they lift the vaccine?
They did.
Yes,
so
for him.
He was able to play this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't have to lie on his vaccine card.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was disappointing for the fans last year. And the fans, they were expected to be booing him this year, but it hasn't really been happening. They've
like I thought.
The fans have been kind of cordial to Novak, surprisingly. So
way to go, Aussies!
Way to go, Aussies! They love their tennis. They don't want to embarrass themselves.
That's true.
Okay, some baseball notes. Controversy has caused starting pitcher Trevor Bauer to be released from the Los Angeles Dodgers. If you remember what that controversy was, without getting into too much detail, he's already served the longest suspension in Major League Baseball history. But the Dodgers let him go, and they will be paying $22.5 million owed to him this year.
That is ridiculous.
Of course, it's ridiculous. But that's the way it goes. Guaranteed contracts. Outfielder Andrew McCutchen, yes, you can go home again. Back in Pittsburgh, who drafted him in 2005, started playing with him in 2009.
I'm glad for him.
Yeah,
McCutchen's great.
He's been shopped around, hasn't he?
Yeah, but he should be there. That's where he belongs.
Yeah, he's going to be Tyler.
42-year-old designated hitter Nelson Cruz goes to San Diego from Washington. Trey Mancini, who survived cancer, goes to the Chicago Cubs from Houston on a 2-year deal. And finally, Comerica Park in Detroit is shortening all their wall distances in order to create more scoring. So I guess people have been complaining they're not scoring enough in Detroit.
Well, I guess they...
It's not going to help them, Joe. It's not going to help them.
It's going to help their opponents.
More souvenirs.
We're going to lose.
Aaron Judge is still up playing there.
We're going to lose 11-5, not 5-3. Add some excitement. But thank you to Rockin Ronnie McKinnon for all that information. Nice. And now it's that time of the part of the show where we talk about our bets that we thought were winners, looked like they were going to be winners, but in the end, something went horribly wrong, and they ended up being losers. It's a segment we affectionately call You Got Hosed.
You Got Hosed.
So, Gator, do you have a You Got Hosed story for this week?
Okay, well, Joe, DraftKings reported taking a $1.4 million bet on the Chargers to win the game, and that investment came when the Chargers scored 27, when the score was 27-0.
Oh my God!
Now that meant that the better $1.4 million would get you $11,200.
That's kind of crazy.
Now, a lot of action actually, Joe, was going on Jacksonville at that time, and at that time they were at 28-1. So the public actually beat the books as far as in play goes, as far as Jacksonville. But Joe, if you had the money line on the Chargers and they lost by 1, we talked about it, you got hosed.
And you bet $1.4 million. That guy got hosed for sure.
And what was it, Boza? Joey Boza throwing his helmet like a basketball.
and then Staley hands him his helmet and he slams it down again.
Yeah, he's got full control of that team. I tell you right now. He's got full control. He deserves another year.
That was a key point in the game because they were about to kick an extra point to go down by 3. Instead, they nope, we're going to take the penalty. We're on the 1-yard line. And they went for 2 and cut it 30-28. When you had that spread 2.5, you're loving life with Jacksonville at that point. Of course, they went up and kicked the field goal anyway.
And my wife, who's following football for the first year, noticed. She said, "Did he get benched?" And I'm like, "I think you're going to bench the best player." She goes, "Well, he's on the bench." It was a great point. It was a great point she made. But they did let him back in the game. And I thought if you had 2, personal fouls like that, you were supposed to be ejected.
You should.
Well, he was complaining about about the officiating.
And it was. Well, he was getting held. I mean, there was no question he was getting held. But I mean, you can't throw a tantrum.
No,
but anyway,
that cost him at least a chance at overtime.
Exactly. It would have been 1 point. You're exactly right. You would have gave Herbert another chance.
And we would have had at least one more chance.
Sure.
So, Big Rich, do you have You Got Hosed story?
Unfortunately, I do have a You Got Hosed story. Last Thursday, Michigan was visiting Iowa. Michigan was getting 6 points, and I'm thinking that's a great bet. Take Michigan, and So they're with a minute 30. Michigan is winning by 5. I've got 6. I'm up by 11 with a minute 30. Is there any way I could lose this?
That's a lot of time.
I mean, I think. Well, they come down there and they tie the game up to bring it to another 5 minutes in overtime, and they won by 9. And I lost. I'm thinking I was already going up to the window to cash my ticket, and they're like, "It's an overtime. We can't cash it yet."
Overtime always kills you.
Overtime kills the points.
Is.
So
yeah.
Thanks a lot, Michigan, and I got host.
You got host. Joe, you got a host story for us?
Well, I got one that I'm sure a lot of people had. We kind of foreshadowed it a little bit last Monday night. Took in the NFL, Dallas and Tampa Bay to go over 45.5 points. Unbelievably, Dallas's field goal kicker, I don't even want to mention his name. I don't even like him. He misses 4 extra points. Tampa's Tom Brady throws an interception into the end zone from the Dallas 5-yard line. That was a potential 11 points and a certain 3 points down the toilet. The final score is at 31-14 Dallas. I lose by half a point on the over, and I get completely hosed.
Bad, very bad.
Yeah, my heart, the kicker hosed you.
My heart's out to you, Joe.
And we're not getting another kicker. So I might have to relive this again.
Joe.
Next week. But I know, he's used to kicking on that nice turf and indoors, man. And he's kicking outside on grass, and now he can't kick all of a sudden. And now he's outside in grass.
In San Francisco, they've been getting a lot of rain, so
exactly.
That could be
an issue.
Could be another disaster.
You got hosed.
So that's it for the show. I'd like to thank Big Richard Martin, Gator Gates, all our contributors, our editor, producer, and engineer, Cornelius, and all you listeners out there. And next week, we look forward to bringing you another episode of Covering the Field.
You've been listening to Covering the Field. Email us at coveringthefield@gmail.com for all your comments or questions. Find us on Twitter @CoveringField. And of course, always check out the website for our picks of the week and updated articles. coveringthefield.com.